Hey everyone, welcome back to Donghua Looks Back, where we relive the best moments of Chinese anime together. If you enjoy epic cultivation battles and deep story analysis, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a new episode review. It suddenly came to mind, Han Li, who had just formed his Nascent Soul, was so formidable. He not only won over Nangong Wan, but also won over Ancestor Linghu and Nangong Wan's senior martial sister. After seeing Han Li, with his early Nascent Soul cultivation, fight against the ancient devil, the two of them, who were at the mid-Nascent Soul stage, were completely in awe of him. To possess so many treasures and divine abilities at such a young age, his future path of cultivation is truly limitless. It seems that making an agreement with him back then, the pact to protect Yellow Maple Valley, was truly the right decision. As long as he is willing to act, no matter how great a disaster Yellow Maple Valley might face, it should be able to protect itself for the next 1,000 years. As for Nangong Wan's senior martial sister, although she had unpleasant dealings with Han Li in the past, now she could only force a smile and thank him as well. I am also very grateful for your great kindness, fellow Taoist. The woman in white was still a bit too embarrassed to face him. Her voice sounded somewhat cold. As for seeking revenge on Han Li, after witnessing the divine abilities he now possessed, this woman had completely given up on that idea. It's not so much a life-saving favor. I was merely protecting myself. Now, what are the plans of you to fellow Taoists? Are you interested in following along to take a look? Han Li calmly raised a hand and recalled the golden moths and other items. Some he absorbed into his body, others he tucked into his sleeve. Only then did he speak in an unhurried tone. Fellow Taoist Han, you must be joking. That thing is incredibly powerful. Only a late-stage Nascent Soul cultivator could possibly deal with it. How could the two of us possibly follow it? Ancestor Linghu shook his head without a second thought. The woman in white said nothing, but her expression showed she deeply agreed. If that's the case, then let's forget it. Although I am interested, it would be too reckless to go alone. I shall part ways with you to here. Han Li felt a bit of regret. If there were two Nascent Soul cultivators willing to go with him, he really would have wanted to see what exactly was happening in the distance. But if he were to go by himself, he would rather not take such a risk. Thinking of this, he didn't wait for the other two to reply. He turned his head and glanced once more in the direction behind them. As a result, he only gazed into the distance for a moment, before his expression suddenly changed and turned grave. What happened? When old Ancestor Linghu saw Han Li's expression, his heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly asked. At the same time, he turned his head to look back. He saw a flash of light on the distant horizon. High in the sky, a vast expanse of black and purple appeared. A two-colored haze swirled and flickered incessantly. It actually covered half the sky, and beneath it, a tree-sized, vibrant emerald cloud slowly rose. It spun slowly beneath the haze. Instantly, as the green cloud and the haze intertwined, a deafening rumbling sound echoed out, and that roar was faintly coming from there. Within this black and purple two-colored haze, an overwhelming demonic cha, like a monstrous tidal wave, poured out, and the three of them were all extremely familiar with this demonic cha. It was clearly what Nan Longho had just manifested. After transforming into his two-headed, four-armed form, the aura it emanated was exactly the same. It was just that it was far inferior to the astonishing demonic cha now appearing in the sky. Just sensing it from a distance was enough to make one feel as if they were suffocating. What made old Ancestor Linghu's expression change was that the black-purple haze and that green cloud were rapidly moving towards their position. It looks like it will be here soon. That is corrosive poison yuan, a substance created by a Taoist poisonous technique. Ordinary cultivators will die on contact. I have seen a fellow Taoist use it once before. The woman in white had already seen that green cloud of mist. She said with a grim expression. Han Li and old Ancestor Linghu heard this. They exchanged a strange glance. Both saw deep fear in the other's eyes. Although that green mist is formidable in power, it's clearly being suppressed by that shroud of black cha. I wonder what kind of demonic creature is fighting Wei Wuya. To think even a late-stage Nascent Soul cultivator is no match for it. But for such a shocking aura to come from over there, it's definitely not Nan Longho who just slipped away from here. The woman in white was not foolish. Seeing the expressions of Han Li and old Ancestor Linghu, she immediately understood the situation. Her face darkened. We should. The woman hesitated for a moment. Just as she opened her mouth to suggest something, a cold and sinister divine sense suddenly swept across the three of them. The woman in white's voice stopped abruptly. Meanwhile, Han Li's heart shuddered. Old Ancestor Linghu's expression turned even more grim. Now, That thing over there has locked onto the three of us. If we don't leave now, I'm afraid we won't be able to leave at all. The demonic beast that just attacked us has also gone over there. If it also teams up to attack fellow Taoist Wei, I'm afraid no matter how profound his cultivation is, he won't be able to hold on for long. Are you planning to go and lend fellow Taoist Wei a hand, or do you intend to part ways here? After fellow Taoist Wei perishes, we'll be hunted down individually by these demonic beasts, and then we'll have to leave it all to fate. After a moment of silence, Han Li spoke with a cold, expressionless face. He had just used his divine sense to probe the area beneath that black light. As a result, the spiritual energy fluctuations within were astonishing. His divine sense couldn't get close at all. This made his heart sink. This indicated that in the battle, the cultivation levels of both combatants were far beyond his own. Hearing Han Li's words, Ancestor Linghu and the woman in white couldn't help but look at each other in dismay. If it were possible, the two of them had just barely escaped with their lives. Naturally, they didn't want to go back and fight that demonic beast to the death. But it was just as Han Li had said. Once Wei Wuya, who was holding back the demonic beast, was defeated, the two of them had little confidence in escaping from the valley. After all, they were now deep in the center of the inner valley. Besides, if by some chance Wei Wuya didn't perish, later, they will know about their indifference to death. As members of the Nine Nations Alliance, their troubles in the future will be significant. The two of them still belong to their respective sects. The Grand Elder, they will also bring great disaster to the Moon Concealing Sect and the Yellow Bee Valley. But to make them act for their sect, it would mean risking everything. In a fight with no certainty of success, the two of them are also unwilling. At this moment, both of them showed hesitation on their faces. Han Li sneered coldly in her heart. With her hands behind her back, she looked at the approaching horizon. The dark purple figure said nothing more. Among the three of us, Han Taoist has the greatest powers. I wonder what plans you have. The old ancestor Linghu frowned slightly. After exhaling the frustration in his heart, he suddenly asked Han Li. Han Li chuckled but did not answer immediately. She smiled without speaking. Seeing this, the old ancestor Linghu smiled wryly. He could only scold Han Li for being a little microphone. Otherwise, as long as Han Li offered a suggestion, the three of them would immediately leave. That person, Weib, would later have an excuse to push this matter onto Han Li. Just as the old ancestor Linghu felt a bit awkward, Han Li suddenly let out a light, puzzled. Just as the old ancestor Linghu felt a bit awkward, Han Li suddenly let out a light, puzzled. There are actually other cultivators nearby. But it's no wonder with such a loud noise. I'm afraid cultivators within thousands of miles will be drawn here. The old ancestor Linghu and the woman in white were startled upon hearing this. They quickly followed Han Li's gaze. They saw that on one side of the battle group in the distance, there was indeed a faint flicker of spiritual light. There really is a pair of cultivators. They flew away under that green cloud. How could it be them? What are they doing in such a dangerous place? They are still standing. Just now, when he used his divine sense to carefully skin these cultivators, he suddenly felt a jolt in his heart. The pair flying towards the battle consisted of 3 people. To his surprise, he recognized 2 of them. One was the Tianjin real person he had traded with before, still followed by 2 evil ghost puppets. But at this moment, they were covered in wounds. One of the puppets only had 1 arm left. They seemed to have gone through some ordeal. The other person was an old man with silver hair from the Luo Yun sect, the Chen senior brother that Han Li knew. As for the last person, he was a stranger who had invested with the honest old man. As for the other cultivator, who should have been there, an elderly cultivator, there was no trace of him at all. An elderly embellishment, yet there was no trace at all. Something unexpected must have happened. After getting a clear look at these people, Han Li's expression turned grim. It seemed these people were drawn by the astonishing battle here. They had been attracted over. They might have even mistaken it for cultivators, fighting over some kind of rare treasure. If only they knew there wasn't any treasure here, but instead, a demonic creature that devours nascent souls. They probably would have stayed far, far away, because the distance was simply too great. It was already too late to use a voice transmission technique to stop them. In the blink of an eye, the group had approached the fray. Presumably, the current Wei Wuya would be delighted to have a few scapegoats arrive to help him shoulder some of the pressure. But the silver-haired elder and his group would be in grave danger. Han Li wouldn't care what happened to others. But this senior brother Chang from the Falling Cloud sect had treated him well. He was always one to distinguish between kindness and grudges. He couldn't just stand by and watch and see this person walk to his death right before his eyes. It seemed he had no choice but to go over as well. Han Li sighed inwardly, thinking of his original plan. Although it wasn't to turn and flee immediately, he also had no intention of rashly getting involved in the fight between the demonic creature and Wei Wuya. Instead, he had planned to sneak over quietly, to get a look at Wei Wuya and the specifics of his battle with the demonic creature. Besides, if the situation only got slightly out of hand, he would naturally step in to help, to tie up that demon soul that just went past. After all, as a human cultivator, he didn't want to see an unrestrained bone demon either, going on a killing spree in this place, devouring nascent souls everywhere. But if the situation was completely hopeless, and already beyond saving, he wouldn't throw his own life away for it. It would be better to slip away and focus on his own survival. This could only be considered a tribulation for the cultivators here. Facing an opponent that had defeated even late-stage Nascent Soul cultivators, he didn't have the power to turn the tide. He would be lucky just to save his own skin. But now, the silver-haired elder and his group had rashly charged into the fray. Han Li's expression flickered uncertainly. He could only brace himself and join in. If things got too dangerous, at worst, he could just use the blood lore shield to escape with his life. It was just that, when using this secret art, he had to be precise with the direction. He couldn't just escape and then immediately run into some spatial rift. The risk was still considerable, unless it was absolutely necessary. Han Li still wouldn't use this escape art. After thinking everything through, Han Li suddenly turned around to old ancestor Linghu beside him, and the woman in white, he said in a cold voice. Since other fellow Taoists have already stepped in to help, facing this demonic creature that devours the nascent souls of cultivators, we cannot just stand by and watch. Whether you two fellow Taoists go or not, I, Han, will be going ahead. It's just that you two are so close to the battle now. I'm afraid that fellow Taoist has already discovered your presence. It will be difficult to explain to Brother Wei afterward, with a tone that was 7 parts warning and 3 parts threat. As soon as he finished speaking, Han Li stomped his foot and transformed into a streak of light, shooting through the air straight toward the battle. Old ancestor Linghu and the woman in white were stunned after hearing Han Li's words, frozen on the spot, speechless for a moment. In just that moment of delay, that black creature and the green light were fighting ever more fiercely. At this point, they were just a few miles away. If that Wuya were to use his divine sense, with just a slight sweep, the two of them would truly have nowhere to hide. Han Li's words were not entirely an empty threat. Let's go. Fellow Taoist Han is right. As humans, we, cultivators, exorcising demons is indeed a duty that cannot be shirked. After the corner of old ancestor Yi, whose mouth twitched, he said to the woman in white with a wry smile. The woman's expression was grim. She also knew the stakes involved, so she could only nod helplessly. Fortunately, with so many cultivators attacking together, no matter how powerful the demonic beast is, they should be able to protect themselves. Right. With a glimmer of hope, the two of them transformed into 2 streaks of light. Bracing themselves, they also flew over. They didn't know, 100 li behind them, the great elder of the Yulin sect, Donghua, was leading 3 green-robed people swiftly flying towards this location. The Nascent Soul cultivators, who had originally transformed using the 5 elements, departed sound. Now only 3 of them remained. The other 2 must have perished in the spatial rifts and restrictive formations. But there wasn't the slightest hint of disappointment on his face. Instead, he seemed somewhat excited, looking from time to time towards the distant horizon. The spiritual energy fluctuations there were abnormally intense. Even from 100 li away, he could sense them clearly. Most likely, some cultivators were fighting fiercely over a treasure. Naturally, he would go over and take a look, to see if he could fish in troubled waters. Meanwhile, in another direction, 300 li away, the androgynous elder of the Ghost Spirit sect was also leading. A team from the Ghost Spirit sect was rushing toward the battle. His face was grim. This time, after entering the Fallen Devil Valley, even though they had a map to follow, 2 of their disciples still had an accident along the way. Their bodies and souls were annihilated in a moving spatial rift, and the main purpose of his trip was a tomb he had painstakingly found. The Linghu fruit on top of it had unbelievably been picked by someone just a step ahead. This made him almost explode with rage, despite his deep composure. Those Linghu fruits were the key to him breaking through to the late Nascent Soul stage, because the traces of the fruit being picked were still exceptionally fresh, and the Linghu fruit had to be used for alchemy right away. Therefore, the person who got them absolutely could not have gotten far. He immediately took his disciples to search the vicinity, but unfortunately, after so many days, they had still found nothing. Just as he was dejectedly preparing to lead his disciples back the way they came, a blast of Che suddenly surged over them. It nearly wiped out all of his disciples. Luckily, he possessed a top-grade defensive ancient treasure, allowing them to escape shaken but unharmed. Then, an astonishing fluctuation of spiritual energy came from the distance. This caused his heart to stir. He immediately thought of the cultivator who had snatched the spirit pearl fruit. Unable to hold back any longer, he immediately flew over. Han Li did not recall the heavenly demon master from the sky, nor the many puppets he had summoned. Instead, on his way over, he also released the more than 10 giant turtle puppets. Old ancestor Linghu, who was following behind, and the woman in white saw this, and while they were shocked, they also felt somewhat relieved, although these puppets were not much in a one-on-one fight. But, if they were used skillfully, and if dozens of them attacked at once, even an ordinary Nascent Soul cultivator would have to temporarily retreat. However, aside from feeling slightly relieved, jealousy began to stir in old ancestor Linghu's heart. Even the woman in white muttered to herself for a moment. She felt even more that Han Li's methods were seemingly endless, truly profound and unfathomable. From a distance of several miles away, Han Li flew to the vicinity of the battle in the blink of an eye. He slowly came to a halt, standing several hundred yards away. From there, he could see everything clearly. Being this close, he finally discovered that the so-called black mass was actually a purplish-red demonic light, filled with countless strands of pitch-black demonic chi, which formed tentacles that danced wildly within. And the source of this demonic chi was a demonic creature at the center of the purple light. This demon had a single horn on its forehead. Its face was contorted. It looked strikingly similar to that two-headed, four-armed demon that escaped, but its body was just like that of an ordinary person. Its skin was even exceptionally translucent, like a piece of fine jade. At this moment, the demon was expressionless. Its eyes were slightly closed. It looked as if it had not yet fully awakened. But what was astonishing was that, although its lips were tightly sealed, thunderous roars would periodically erupt from its belly. Judging by this sound alone, the demon seemed to be exceptionally furious. Yet its face remained completely devoid of expression, utterly impassive, and this demon's two arms were also mechanically tossing down one after another, fireballs as black as ink. Its movements were stiff, appearing unusually sluggish. Don't be fooled by these few inconspicuous black fireballs. But once they fell into the green clouds below, they burst open. They would invariably unleash a wave of black fire over 100 feet wide, scattering the nearby green mist completely. But Wei Wuya's poison mist was not to be underestimated. After a surge and a counterattack, it would immediately extinguish the black flames. At the same time, it transformed the dense fog into countless giant green pythons. They continuously lunged upwards to tear and bite, vainly attempting to break through the sky, to directly attack the demon in the grinding light. The beast-headed, human-bodied demon. But the prey dodged in a flash. Black demonic flames intertwined and flickered. From time to time, a loud rumbling echoed through the sky. What is going on? It seems that demon has not fully awakened yet. Or perhaps it is under some kind of seal. This is a great opportunity. Patriarch Linghu then followed and stopped near Han Li. Upon seeing the demon in the sky, his expression changed. Then he said with pleasant surprise, "If it is this easy to kill, kill it." Fellow Taoist Wei would have acted long ago. Why else would he be struggling to hold on while hiding in the poison cloud? It seems there is some other mystery here. However, judging by the intensity of its demonic energy, this demon is surely related to the one from before, the one that escaped. They must be deeply connected, and it is much more powerful, Han Li said casually, shaking his head, while constantly scanning the surroundings with his eyes and divine sense. He was a little puzzled. The demonized Marquis Nangong who had rushed over earlier, how had he vanished without a trace? However, his gaze paused and instead, he first spotted the silver-haired old man and the others not far away. These people saw the situation on the battlefield, was already stunned. Upon seeing the arrival of Han Li and the others, his expression turned to one of utter surprise. When the honest-looking elder saw Han Li, he couldn't help but be both shocked and delighted. However, for some unknown reason, he just smiled and nodded at Han Li from a distance, and showed no intention of coming over. Seeing this, Han Li gave a bitter smile to himself, and could only send a voice transmission to senior brother Cheng first. How did you get involved in this? This demonic creature is extremely dangerous. Even fellow Taoist Wei Wuya down below might not be its match. Also, nearby, there should be another demonic creature with 2 heads and 4 arms. And it's not much weaker than the one on the field. What? The one below is fellow Taoist Wei Wuya, and there's another monster like that. Junior brother Han. How do you know all this so clearly? Could it be that you've already fought it? The silver-haired elder was shocked. His lips moved as he sent the voice transmission back. I briefly tested the other demonic creature. although I couldn't gauge its true strength. It should be no weaker than a late-stage Nascent Soul cultivator. The two fellow Taoists with me and I joined forces, and we could only barely manage to hold it off. And these demonic creatures can also devour cultivators, because he moves like the wind, and is skilled at concealing his tracks. Senior brother, you must be careful. If we are truly going to make a move, it would be best for all of us to attack together. That would be the safer option. Han Li quickly spoke about the ancient demon, and gave a few words of warning. Understood. I will discuss it with the two fellow Taoists here. Hearing the gravity in Han Li's words, the silver-haired elder's heart grew heavy. He hurriedly agreed. Then, the silver-haired elder was seen turning to the Tianjin beside him, perfected master, and said a few words to the unfamiliar old man, relaying what Han Li had said. That perfected master Tianjin had already recognized Han Li, seeing the 20 to 30 tiger-waisted giant turtle puppets by Han Li's side. His face was naturally filled with astonishment. At this moment, he smiled and gestured towards Han Li, while speaking with the silver-haired elder. As for the old man, with a face full of wrinkles, upon hearing Han Li's name, he looked at Han Li a couple more times with a surprised expression. Although he was a reclusive cultivator, who for many years had not inquired about worldly affairs, a true old eccentric, but Han Li's recent fame was simply too great. Plus, he was the junior brother of a very close friend. He was naturally a bit curious. But on the surface, he just gave Han Li a slight nod. As for Patriarch Linghu and the woman in white, although their reputations were also considerable, they didn't have much of a relationship with the people opposite them. So although they knew Han Li was sending a voice transmission, they let him communicate with the three people on the other side. To deal with such a terrifying demonic creature, it would be better for everyone to act together. Just then, Wei Wuya's voice came from within the green cloud. His voice was deep and low, with even a hint of hoarseness. Is that you, fellow Taoist Han? For you fellow Taoists to arrive here in time, it's truly wonderful. This demon is an ancient demon that once invaded our human realm in ancient times. It is the mortal enemy of us cultivators. I never expected one to be sealed in this Demonfall Valley, and it was accidentally released by Wang Wenju and his group. Sect Master Wang and fellow Taoist Wang Tiangu have already died when it struggled to break free from the seal in the explosion of the spatial rift. I exhausted all my divine abilities and was lucky just to survive, but my vital energy was severely damaged. I can't hold it back for much longer. Fortunately, the seal placed on its body by the ancient cultivators, a small part of it still exists inside its body. It is currently using its internal demonic fire to refine that restriction. Fellow cultivators, you must stop him. Otherwise, once this fiend's demonic power is restored, no one in the fallen Demon Valley will be its match. All of you will also fall to its malevolent hands. Wei Wuya's voice was urgent and anxious. It seemed he was quite seriously injured, and as soon as he finished speaking, the green mist in the center churned violently. Then, a figure materialized within a patch of green light. His face was ashen and bloodless. His eyes were somewhat dim. Who else could it be but Wei Wuya? Hearing this, Han Li had a moment of realization, but he couldn't help but complain bitterly in his heart. He had thought they were only here to assist Wei Wuya. How did they suddenly become the main force? This was a huge problem. Old Ancestor Linghu, the silver-haired elder, and the others heard these words, and looked at each other in dismay, not knowing what to do. Even a great cultivator like Wei Wuya was no match for this demonic creature. They would stand even less of a chance. But, if they were to scatter and flee now, Wei Wuya was pressuring them with righteousness. Once news got out that they fled without a fight, they would no longer have a place in the Tianan cultivation world. After all, this wasn't an ordinary duel in the cultivation world, where you could flee if things looked bad and no one would say a thing. Fellow Taoists, do not worry. I have already scouted from afar with the divine stone. You just need to hold this demonic creature for a little while. Other fellow Taoists will be arriving shortly. Moreover, not long ago, I also sent a voice transmission talisman to the Mulan spellcasters. If the Mulan people wish to establish a foothold in Tianan, they will certainly come to our aid. Seemingly noticing the awkwardness of Han Li and the others, Wei Wuya's voice softened. He finally shared some good news. Upon hearing this, including Han Li and the others, all the cultivators breathed a sigh of relief. Although they might not be a match for this demonic creature, holding it off for a while seemed achievable. But the demon head floating in the dark demonic chat, the demonic creature with a human body, seemed to have understood their words. Its half-closed eyes trembled slightly. A cold glint flashed through them. At the same time, the demonic flame in its hand stopped. It slowly raised its hand and began to survey its surroundings. Wherever the demonic creature's eyes swept, flashes of black and purple light flickered incessantly. Everyone suddenly felt a chilling cold rise up their spines. It was as if they were being stared down by a natural predator. Their hearts all skipped a beat at the same time. Only Han Li, who had cultivated the great development art, had a truly powerful divine sense. After Beiche took a glance, although he felt uncomfortable in his heart, his pupils contracted slightly. Their eyes met with a flash of blue light. If he were to deliberately avoid it, he feared it would leave a shadow in his heart in the future. He would then become timid when facing this demon spiritual pressure. The Gumo of the ghost hand Ginseng saw Han Li's reaction, and was clearly a bit surprised. After its icy gaze swept around, it landed back on Han Li. Han Li, however, stared at the demon with half-closed eyes, not speaking. As for Old Man Hu and the woman in white, who were originally standing by Han Li's side, after being swept by Gumo's gaze, they couldn't help but move a few steps to the sides, as if they were unable to withstand the heavy weight of the demon's divine pressure. When the other Z people saw this, their expressions changed, and they couldn't help but assume a guarded stance. Just at that moment, the demon raised a hand, black flames flickered, a black fireball rapidly expanded and grew larger. In the blink of an eye, it became the size of a head. Then it waved its arm. The fireball vanished in a sudden flash. A chill ran through Han Li's heart, and he immediately became vigilant, because the black fireball's target was not Han Li and the others, but an empty spot in the sky above the demon, where it suddenly appeared, and then it exploded. The range of the stonefish staff was completely enveloped in the black demonic flames. Just as Han Li was in shock, from within the black demonic flames, a figure flickered. A two-headed, four-armed monster emerged. Its forearms, flashing with purple light, waved imposingly. The black demonic flames instantly gathered and condensed into the palm of one of its arms, reforming into a single black fireball. Then, this arm moved, and the monster's front head swallowed the black fireball in a single gulp. Then it looked up, revealing a cold and sinister gaze. Demonic hand Ginseng monster below. So it is you after all. You finally came looking for me. Demonic hand. Gumo let out a sigh, and suddenly spoke in a human voice. You have some nerve to actually dare and attack me. It seems you've started making your own decisions. When I let you go back then, to devour that cultivator's nascent soul, I really don't know if that was the right choice or not. The two-headed, four-armed Nangong Ho, after its front head gave a faint smile, said with a malicious tone, since I am you, you are me. After gaining my own consciousness, why should I continue to risk my life for you? Besides, in the sacred realm, for a split soul, devouring the original in return is not a rare occurrence. When you let me become independent back then, you should have been prepared for this outcome. The demon head's tone was grating, yet it was surprisingly calm. Correct, I did anticipate some of this. I just didn't expect that after you broke free from my control, you would take the form of a human cultivator and preemptively occupy my sealed body. And even to break the seal, you didn't hesitate to use the grand technique of disintegration and reformation to reconstruct the body. Do you have any idea that while this method can forcibly break the seal, it would cause this body of mine to suffer a great loss of vital energy? It lost at least 1/3 of its cultivation level. Do you know what that means? The faces on both of the demon soul's heads turned cold simultaneously. It asked with a murderous look, Humph, what do you mean? Your body. I was originally a part of your primordial spirit. What's wrong with me occupying this body? Besides, even if the body lost 1/3 of its cultivation, as long as I devour you, and then in the human realm, I have avoided those cowardly turtles. This realm is now mine to roam free and do as I please. When the time comes, I will once again open the ancient passage from the sacred realm to the human realm. Then I will have performed a great service for the sacred ancestors. Perhaps I can even become one of the sacred ancestors myself. What's losing a little bit of cultivation compared to that? The drum demon of the demonic hand let out a cold laugh, and spoke with disdain. The two-headed, four-armed demonic soul heard these words, and knew that things had already reached this point. Anything he said would be useless, since the second demonic soul he cultivated had begun to turn against him. Only one of them could exist independently in this world. The other's consciousness must be obliterated. This was a matter of course, if he hadn't been forced into it back then. With his primary soul truly unable to escape the seal, how could he have risked sending out a soul fragment, never to return? Now, although he had escaped because of it, the soul fragment had indeed gone awry. However, although the other had taken over the demonic body, its cultivation was not something his temporary demonized body could compare to. But he was the primary soul back then. Naturally, on the soul fragment he sent out, he had placed certain restrictions. Although he didn't know how many the other had broken, But, if they were to fight, who would emerge victorious? Was truly hard to say. At this thought, one of the demon soul's heads suddenly turned. It took a look at the surrounding cultivators and suddenly said coldly, "As for which of us devours the other, we can decide that later. Let's first devour all these cultivators, to greatly replenish our vital energy. Then we can find a secluded place and settle things between us. I have no desire to let these human cultivators live out their fantasy of being the fisherman who gets the prize. You have no objections, do you?" Of course not. The residual essence within my body has just about been completely refined anyway. Even if you don't make a move, I can kill them all by myself, the demonic hand ginseng devil said calmly. Then, a piercing purple-red demonic light suddenly swirled in its eyes. Its eyes instantly blazed. Heh, don't get ahead of yourself. Some of these cultivators are quite troublesome. The demon soul sneered, its gaze subconsciously sweeping over toward Han Li. The demonic hand ginseng devil opened its mouth, sticking out a long purple tongue, but its face showed a look of disdain, and when the cultivators saw the two-headed, four-armed devil appear, they were all startled. Then, after hearing the two demons' undisguised conversation, they were suddenly dumbfounded. Listening to the tone of the two demons, it seemed the original relationship between the main primordial spirit and the second primordial spirit had changed. Now the second primordial spirit had gained its own will, and had in turn taken over the demon's body. The two sides had become as incompatible as fire and water. Old ancestor Linghu, the silver-haired elder, and the others were secretly delighted. They thought the two demons would fight each other first, and then they could fish in troubled waters. But unexpectedly, the situation took a sharp turn. The two demons suddenly decided to join forces against them. Their expressions couldn't help but turn grim. "Fellow Taoist Wei, I'll have to trouble you to hold off the opponent. Let fellow Taoist Linghu and the other one assist you. I and the others will deal with the other demon first. For now, we can only focus on self-preservation." As Han Li transmitted his thoughts, he calmly said this to Wei Wuya. "I'm afraid it's not that simple. The restriction inside its body has been mostly lifted. I don't know how long I can last with my injuries." Wei Wuya was stunned upon hearing this. Then, with a bitter smile, he understood. Han Li's intention was to stall for time. Other cultivators were on their way right now. Naturally, the longer they could delay, the better. Old ancestor Linghu and the woman in white, upon hearing Han Li's command-like words, showed no signs of resistance. After all, in the cultivation world, strength is what earns respect. Han Li and Yuan Sheng, the countermeasure they discussed had no flaws, so naturally, the two of them had no objections. At this moment, the two demons in the palace gave the human cultivators absolutely no time to discuss. Han Li had just uttered that single sentence, and had not yet communicated with the silver-haired elder and the others, when the two demons attacked immediately. The ancient demon, with a demon's head and a human body, spun around quickly. A demonic light flashed from its entire body. Instantly, the entire sky seemed to darken. A black-purple demonic light surged wildly, and rapidly expanded in all directions. In an instant, the nearby sky was dyed an eerie color. The demon soul above it showed no intention of dodging the mist of light. Instead, after a strange expression appeared on its two heads, its figure flickered, and vanished without a trace within the brilliant light. Seeing this, the cultivators naturally knew the great battle had begun. No matter what they had been thinking before, now they could only brace themselves and fight.